Redshift here, doing my part to shift perceptions out of the pink and into the red. Okay, so I got this comment by, I don't know if he's a regular viewer or an occasional viewer. He's definitely made several comments on my videos. His YouTube name is Hardin9, like capital Hardin, and then the number 9. And he seems to always be really like critical and kind of negative. I don't know if he doesn't like my channel or if he's just sort of like that, but I don't know, whatever. He made this long comment, and some of the things he said I kind of agree with, but I think he also sort of, I don't know, he didn't, it's not so much that I think he didn't listen to the video closely enough. Not my last video, but my video that I did a while ago, which I really, really liked. I think it was underappreciated as a video of mine. It was called "A Chicken in Every Pot and a Gun in Every Hand." One of the videos that I'm more proud about, I think. And in that video, I advocated, you can go back and watch it if you want, but I advocated that all children should have the right to carry a handgun into school, right? That would stop school shootings. It would stop bullying. It would stop, infidelity, promiscuity, cheating. It would stop all kinds of things. It would be really, really good for society. So here, I'm going to read you his comment, or at least some of it, and I'm going to point out why he is wrong, or at least in the ways that he's wrong, He says, quote, he says, Redshift, you contradict yourself so badly in this vlog, it's pathetic. You know female nature, you know they're childlike by nature, you know they're incapable of handling any level of responsibility due to them being incapable of any kind of self-agency due to their biological nature, and you're arguing they should be armed. That is utter intellectual dishonesty. So, that's just the first little part of his comment. So I'm going to address that first. No, I am not arguing that girls in school, like, junior high and high school, should be armed. I'm saying they should have the right to be armed. In other words, they should be allowed to be armed if they want to. They should be allowed to bring a gun to school if they want to. They shouldn't be forced to. And considering women are not really big fans of overt violence like that, like carrying their own gun and shooting people because they don't want to risk their own lives, because of that, I think most females would not carry a gun into school. But it would still stop a lot of school shootings because all the guys would want to bring guns to school. Not all, but probably 90% of them would bring guns to school. And like I said in the video, everybody would be way more restrained because they know that if they disrespect or piss off this person or bully him or whatever, he's going to blow them away. So everybody would be super respectful, just like that saying, that Texas saying. An armed society is a polite society. An armed school where all the kids are armed is a polite school. There would be little or no bullying in such a school. There would be little or no cheating in such a school. A girl would break up with her boyfriend before she'd cheat, instead of, and then she'd sleep with a new guy or date a new guy rather than just, cheat and then switch. So, because if she cheated first, the guy might get pissed off and might kill her, So there'd be less cheating too. There'd be all kinds of less bad things of all kinds if we had this. And so, and even the women who did carry firearms into a school, and I'm not saying we should let like two-year-olds carry guns to school. I'm saying like starting at maybe like, let's say 8 years old, they should be allowed to bring guns to school. Because, you have to have a kid be a certain age. He's got to be 8 to 10 years old is a good age. Like, kids that are raised in much more rural environments that, are near wilderness where their father takes them hunting at a very young age and stuff like this, these kids learn how to use guns. They learn gun safety. They learn the importance of it and the deadliness of a gun, and that they're not to play around with. They're not to be pointed at other people. They're, this is serious business, right? So these kids, number one, that makes them more mature that makes them mature faster, become men quicker by learning how to use a gun and be responsible with it. But it also is something that, these kids do at a young age, like 8 to 10 years old, they start using guns and they're totally responsible with it. They go duck hunting or whatever else, deer hunting, so you can start these kids off at a really, really young age. They used to do it, hundreds of years ago all the time. So to act like, giving kids guns starting at like, not giving, like the parents give the kid a gun to take to school if the kid wants to and if the parents want him to, right? And then he takes it to school. Starting doing that at like 8 to 10 years old, all the way up through 18 when they're in high school. After which time they can still continue in college if the college allows it. Doing this would make all the boys much more responsible, and it would be easy to do. And the women who would do that as well, the females, the 8 to 17-year-old or 8 to 18-year-old females who would do that, would be the kind of females who would be more masculine, more responsible, more self-controlled, more brave, etc. These women would be much more worthy and much more responsible with a gun. You know, so it's not like you'd have, a bunch of women carrying guns to school, and then, as soon as they're on their period, they're in a bad mood and they start blowing people away. I mean, that just would not happen. Those kind of women are not going to carry a gun in the first place. Now, sure, like if a guy cheated on a girl and then because he cheated on her, she decides to, even though she never usually takes a gun to school, even though she's allowed to if she wants to, she decides, he cheated on me. I'm going to take a gun to school today and I'm going to kill him. Now I'm going to kill my boyfriend who cheated on me. Or I'm going to kill my best friend who slept with my boyfriend. Well, then that's a good thing if girls do that. Because then the guys who are cheaters get taken out of the gene pool. And then we have less infidelity, less societal destructiveness, more societal cohesion, more peace, more prosperity, less divorce, rape, etc. And, with women killing both men and women who cheat, it's taking both people out of the gene pool. It would be wonderful for the gene pool because, the invention of antibiotics and things like this has really curtailed the eugenic effect of life and death, right? Like the strong survived and the weak died. And that's how it was, and that's why the gene pool got better and better and better and better over thousands of years, hundreds of years. It just kept improving, slowly improving, right? But now, ever since antibiotics and surgery, someone has a bad genetics to where they get appendicitis at 17. Those are bad genes. Originally, those genes would have been taken out of the gene pool because the person would die, and they wouldn't pass on their genes. And only the people who have good genes, whose appendix is going to last until they're at least in their 30s or 40s or something, or at least in, like, let's say their late 20s, right, to where they've already had some children. Those people with the slightly better genes, they're going to pass on their genes, and the people who die early of appendicitis are not going to pass on their genes. So as soon as we invented, modern medicine, antibiotics, surgery, etc., we really decreased the eugenic effect of life and death, and like the invention of modern medicine was a dysgenic thing. I'm not going to say it was really a bad thing because, certain people have other benefits that aren't necessarily health related, like intelligence, that maybe the person has bad health but has extremely good intelligence. You want to preserve those genes. So I'm not saying that like modern medicine was a bad invention. I'm just saying like it is kind of dysgenic, right? At least in terms of health. So because we've had this just dysgenic effect, not just of welfare, which is intellectually dysgenic, not so much health dysgenic, although it is that too. And we have medicine being, health dysgenic. We have all this dysgenia, so it would be a good thing if all these kids brought guns to school and were killing off the people who are cheating, the kids who are cheating and stuff, because that would be good for the gene pool. The smarter people, the more self-controlled people, and the more faithful people would be surviving, and the ones who weren't would not be surviving. And that would be a good thing for the human race. Another thing I wanted to say was that, like, he said something in the video. Oh yeah, he says, and your argument that if a sex-deprived man disarmed a bitch and fucked, there would be others around to defend her. If he's a good marksman, he will take out numerous other people before the chumps who white knight on behalf of that bitch get him. Unquote. That's what Hardin said, right? The last sentence or two. So he's saying that he seems to be thinking that I'm saying, if a sex-deprived guy, does something, the other guys would get him. But, like, my point is, in, like, a free society where there's no government and everybody can go to school with a gun, then there will be few, if any, sex-deprived guys, because men will all have the power, and women will not have the power, right? And yeah, maybe there will be a few guys who will be sex-deprived anyway, because there's no making everybody happy, right? But, like, it'll be way fewer numbers, so it won't be like today's, growing beta revolution, incel revolution, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, it would still exist. There would still be those incel guys, even in an ideal society. And yeah, maybe occasionally they would want to, rape a girl or whatever, and there would be other guys to shoot him, but he could shoot the other guys first and kill several of them. But that doesn't matter. That's not actually a good argument against what I'm saying, because it's more important to take out the bad genes out of society than it is to preserve the good genes. This is basically what I was saying in one of my past videos several months ago, maybe a year ago. I can't even remember how long ago it was quite a while ago. I said that, or I wrote the script. I don't know if I actually got to post the video. But anyway, I assume the video got posted. But in that video, I was saying that it's more important for people with bad genes to voluntarily take themselves out of the gene pool by choosing to not have children than it is for people with really good genes to pass on their genes. Because one guy can impregnate tons and tons of women. So even if, 99% of the guys with, really high IQ, really good health, really big charm, a lot of charm, and really good looks, even if 99% of those guys with great genes were killed off or died of a disease or whatever, right? Like, let's say they were just poof, gone. Even if that happened, it would not be a problem, because that 1% guys, that 1% of those top-notch guys left would be able to impregnate all the women and give them all their good genes. And then all of a sudden, boom, now there's tons and tons of guys with high IQs and good genes and good health all over again. You see, so it's not important to preserve the guys with good genes or make sure they spread their genes a lot. It's much more important to take the bad genes out of society. So it's still eugenic if that, incel, rapist guy kills, student or whatever, because we're talking about kids underage here in school, right? Like, that guy, it's much more important to have him killed. He tries to rape the girl, and then all the other guys shoot him. That's much more eugenic, even if he manages to kill 4 or 5 guys with high IQ and good genes and good health before they kill him. Because one guy with good genes can pass on his genes with a ton of women, but the bad genes guy, it's more important because you got to take his genes out of the gene pool. Because you just do. Because you can't improve the gene pool until you have all the bad genes guys out of the gene pool. I'm not saying kill them all. I'm just saying you have to incentivize them in a good society to voluntarily not procreate, right? Like, maybe give them some kind of, social safety net, or, some kind of free money. Something to compensate them for the fact that they're voluntarily doing the right thing they're doing the right thing by voluntarily choosing to not have children in order to improve the gene pool of the entire human race. See, so this is what we could do. We could benefit them in this way, and then it's a win-win, right? The whole society gets a better gene pool, and these guys get some free money to make up for the fact that they don't get to have children. I mean, they could, but they choose not to, right? So it's then those girls who would otherwise have gotten with that guy, because there's more women in society than men, and in a society with no government, it's a case where, women are dependent on men, and these women don't want to be with their fathers forever, so they'll still get it with a guy that maybe they don't even really like all that much, just to get taken care of and get children, right? So even most of those incel-type guys, or guys who are incel today, would definitely be getting not only wives, but would be having children with those wives, and therefore propagating their bad genes. But, if we allow everybody to have a gun, and then this guy gets pissed off and tries to rape or kill a woman or something, and everybody shoots him, even if he kills 4 other guys who all had good genes before he gets killed, it's still a good thing, because then that woman who would have been with him and would have, had 2 or 3 or 4 of his children, and then were bypassed on his bad genes, now that he's dead, she's going to have to get pregnant by some other guy, probably a guy with a better gene profile, with better genes than the other guy who was killed. So then she'll be able to have higher IQ, more charming, better looking children. So it'd be eugenic. Then he also said, what you're advocating for will simply lead to increased male-on-male conflict and violent conflict over women. That is unsustainable, unquote. That's what Hardin 9 said. So he thinks that, what I'm advocating will increase male-on-male conflict, he says. I don't think so. Because, like I said, in Texas, a lot of them carry guns around, and it's not a problem. The more people that carry guns, it's like, Russia in the 1980s and America in the 1980s, mutually assured destruction. So neither country goes to war with each country, with the other country, because they know that they both be destroyed. Same thing. Everybody carries a gun. Everybody knows that if there's a shootout, tons of people are going to die or whatever. It's going to be really ugly. You're not going to come out well if you start shooting. Even if you shoot the guy first, maybe someone else will shoot you, or that guy will get off a shot or two before he dies and hit you. And so everybody refrains. What I'm advocating in that video, a chicken in every pot and a gun in every hand, would absolutely not lead to increased male-on-male conflict at all. He said we need to learn from Islamic countries and not let them have any rights, etc. I'm more of an anarcho-capitalist, so I think that women would naturally submit themselves to men and give up their rights without having to forcefully take those rights away from women. Because if there's no government providing women with all this free money, which is just taxpayer money stolen from men, middle-class men who actually pay taxes, unlike a lot of the elites, billionaires, but they don't pay taxes. So because its government is allowing women to be independent by stealing men's money and giving it to women, right? So as long as there's no government, that won't happen. Women will need men to survive. Most women, not all women, in an anarcho-capitalist society. Some women are smart and driven and creative, and those women will be able to function and survive and thrive just like men. In an anarcho-capitalist society. And I'm fine with that because that's just a very small percentage of women who that applies to. Probably less than 1% of women fall into that category. So it would not really take away from men's ability to get a woman, so therefore it would not lead to any societal instability, such as the coming incel revolution, which we're starting to see with MGTOW and, incels going on shooting rampages and stuff like that. So it's really not necessary to take women's rights away by force, because all we have to do is abolish the government and women will naturally fall in line as if we had enslaved them anyway. No force necessary. Then he talked about, pedophiles need psychotherapy. There's a chemical imbalance in their brain. Maybe some of it is due to imbalance in the brain, something like that. Maybe it's just our feminized society, or maybe some of these pedophiles are just incels. But a lot of them were abused as children by their parents. That's really, really common. Pedophile victims as children, sexual abuse victims as children become pedophiles when they're older. That's really common. So I would say no. Psychotherapy is not the answer for pedophiles. You cannot cure a pedophile. Like sexual degeneracy, like rapists and pedophiles and things like this is like one of the most recidivist categories of crime. These people are basically incurable. So you need to take them out of the gene pool. And I feel bad for them if they were abused and that's why they became that way, which most of them were. But that mercy is not, it's not safe to be like, oh, we can't kill them because it's not their fault because they were abused as children and that's why they became pedophile. So what, you're just going to let them, you're just going to put them in jail and pay for them? Or you're going to let them still be in society, like put them in jail for a year or 2 or 5 and then let them out again so they can abuse more children, which creates even more pedophiles? No, it's like giving women money for they become a single mother and they're not married, so the government gives them money, Section 8 and all this stuff, WIC, etc. This is unacceptable because it incentivizes bad behavior. So those women get pregnant again so they can get more money, or maybe not even so they can get more money, but because they know that they don't have to be careful because there's no consequences if they do end up getting pregnant again. So maybe they don't get pregnant on purpose to get more money, but they are reckless because they know that there's no incentive to not be reckless. And in fact, they know that the government has got their back if they have another child. They'll get taken care of. So they're fine with it. So they're sexually reckless, so they have even more children out of wedlock. Same thing. You can't incentivize pedophilia by not killing the pedophiles. You have to kill the pedophiles so that you can disincentivize it and get it out of the gene pool and whatever it is, even if it's an imbalance in the brain caused by environmental factors, that's still those particular men's genes who responded in that way by that chemical affecting their brain. You see, so like there's chemicals in our environment that cause people to become transsexual and stuff like this. This is why we're seeing this, massive increase of it. It's not just because there's more tolerance now and blah, blah, blah. It's because, these chemicals are causing it. So But obviously, almost everybody is exposed to these chemicals, so it's only a small percentage of the population that's affected in a negative way by these chemicals to make them transgender or a pedophile or whatever, right? So it's only certain genes that respond in that negative way to those chemicals in the environment that causes them to be a pedophile or a transgender or a homosexual or whatever, right? So those genes that react in that negative way to that environmental stimuli of these chemicals, those are genes that we could take out of the gene pool by killing the pedophiles and the transsexuals and everybody else, right? Who has negative things like that. Now, maybe not the transsexuals because they're not really harming anyone. So I'm not saying that we should kill transsexuals. I'm just saying like pedophiles do harm people. They harm children, and those children are still greatly damaged when they're adults. They're incurable because they're damaged so badly. So these pedophiles are harming people, so they do need to be killed. They do need to be taken out of the gene pool, and those genes, even if the pedophilia itself is not genetic, maybe it's a response to a chemical in the environment. But like I said, their particular genes responded in that particular way to that chemical in the environment. Not everybody's genes responded in that negative way by making them, not everybody was turned into a pedophile by that environmental stimuli, so therefore their genes are better. So therefore those pedophiles' genes that reacted in that negative way should be taken out of the gene pool. So we should be killing pedophiles. Psychotherapy is not a cure for pedophiles at all. And again, I'm talking about the real definition of pedophiles, people who are, having sex with people who are like 12 and younger. Like people who have sex with like 16-year-olds and older, that's totally normal. Women are sexually mature at 16, therefore our biology makes us attracted to 16-year-olds and older, right? All the way up to when women start to lose their fertility, mid 30s. That's when they start losing their looks and we stop losing our attractiveness to them, roughly. So what I'm saying is, 13 to 15 is sort of a borderline area, right? I'm not saying we should kill people who have sex with 13 to 15-year-olds. Maybe we should throw them in prison, absolutely, but don't kill them. But people who are really fucked up, people who are having sex with 12-year-olds and younger, those people should be killed. He also said, Hardin 9 did, he said, allowing children to carry guns is dangerous because they don't have the neurological development to handle that level of responsibility. This is why no society allows children to vote, for example. If you want to have a registry of pedophiles and have designated place for them to live, that's something worth debating. No, I don't see why we should let them live anywhere. They're always going to try and find a way to be around children. We got to kill the pedophiles. That's just common sense. And as far as children not being able to vote, yeah, that is a good example, but that's different because it's pretty fucking easy to learn how to properly care for a gun. Like I said, people who live in rural environments for hundreds of years now have been, letting their children shoot and take care of guns and even have their own guns, or at least use the gun when the parent is around or whatever on hunting trips. Like this is a common thing. Like 8 to 10-year-olds, they start shooting guns. It's no big deal. You just teach them a few things. This is how you load it. You never point it at anybody unless you want to kill them. Whether it's a person or an animal. It's simple stuff. And you don't point the gun at anybody. You don't go get the gun when you're angry. You don't use the gun out of anger. It's simple stuff. It doesn't take much neurological development to handle the responsibility of a gun. It really, really does not. It's just because everybody is so feminized, so infantilized in society these days. The kids grow up, yeah, maybe they learn a lot of facts and how to use the internet, and they see porn at an early age, and they're like becoming really nihilistic and cynical and savvy in a kind of way, in a modern nihilistic kind of way, but that doesn't mean they're more responsible. Because back in the day, people were simpletons compared to how they are today, in a certain sense. But they still had the same IQ, if not higher. So people, a couple hundred years ago, they absolutely had the responsibility level to handle a gun at a very, very young age, 8 to 10 years old. So again, I'm not saying like super young children should have guns, like 5 or 6, but... And again, it's not like frustration or anger would cause them to shoot their gun and kill people at school, even if they were frustrated, because everybody else would have guns, so there'd be an incentive for them not to go crazy with their gun that they're carrying to school. So even the lack of, like they'd be mature, they'd know things, but yeah, there's still that like hormones pumping and frustration and, I hate my teacher, or I hate my, person who's not treating me that well, or whatever, like, or I'm frustrated with my girlfriend, but that kind of thing does not necessarily translate into losing your cool to the point where you're going to pull out your gun and shoot people. Because there's always going to be that barrier there that the person the 8-year-old or this 15-year-old, this 17-year-old, whoever, like however old he is, there's always going to be that barrier there, even from the right from the beginning, that says if you pull out the gun and start shooting people, everybody else who has a gun is going to shoot you. And no one gets that frustrated or that angry at school, to where they're willing to die. That's almost never happens. So it would still not be a problem. And then he said, Hardin 9 did. He said this extreme white knighting for women that you're advocating for, especially as MGTOW and TFL grow, is going to lead to a more male-on-male conflict and a very violent open season on white knights. I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a sharp increasing percentage of the male population who's getting sick of white knights and is just looking for even the slightest excuse to torture and kill a white knight. There are news stories you can see of white knights who have just gotten killed in recent years, and some have ended up in the hospital with severe trauma injuries from being beaten so bad. There's going to come a time where being a white knight is going to be more dangerous than climbing cell phone towers, and that is a very dangerous job. You are being extremely irresponsible by advocating for extreme white knighting for women. Women are not worthy of it, and you're endangering men! Exclamation point. Unquote. So that was the last paragraph in Hardin 9's comment to me. And I really just do not see how he can accuse me of white knighting in that video. I really don't. So I don't really have anything to rebut him there other than saying, yeah, I'm not a white knight. I don't approve of white knighting. I'm all for shaming men who try to white knight. And I was not white knighting in that video as far as I remember. I even scrolled through the script that I still have on the computer, so just to make sure, I didn't remember myself white knighting. I didn't reread the whole script. I just kind of skimmed it, and I didn't really see anything about white knighting. So I'm just gonna say, yeah, you're wrong. I'm not white knighting in that video. That's about all I had to say in this video. This has been Redshift. I hope everybody got something out of this video. Hit the thumbs up button if you did, and if you didn't get anything out of it, then hit the thumbs down button. That's cool too. And peace trucks.